Welcome to On Texas Football. Time for Second Watch with Rod Babers. He's going to go over the game yesterday with Arkansas. After Rod watched it a second time, talk a little bit more in detail of some of the things that he really saw. This episode brought to you by our friend Brett Robin, Dr. Brett Robin, over at the Austin Orthopedic Institute. We'll tell you a bit more about Brett and what he's got going on in a minute. But first, Rod, let's get to your major takeaways and the things that you want to point out upon Second Watch. You in the pre-meeting here for this episode, you gave me four things that you wanted to point out. The very first one you had was obviously the three high safety look that Texas saw so often in the Big 12. Arkansas had been playing some of it earlier this year, but they played a lot of it against Texas on Saturday. What did you see there that you wanted to point out?
But it was definitely a part of their repertoire. I remember even going back to their initial blowout win over Texas at home in 2021. We know it's in their DNA. They don't have the same coordinators there, but Sam Pittman was there, the same head coach. So I think that was mostly Sam Pittman kind of going back to what had worked for them versus a Sark offense. And I don't know if anybody was sounding the alarm bells as much as I was 2 years ago saying, hey, this is a defensive concept that matches up well with Sark's offenses. And it's a problem only because in the Big 12, it was a very popular defensive concept. As a matter of fact, in 2023, Texas saw it probably 6 to 8 of the teams they played either used it as kind of their base concept or they dabbled in it. They minored in it. They didn't major in it. When they played Texas, it was a changeup. U of H did that. Rice did that. So I think teams started to figure out this counters Sark's offense really well. And the reason is because it simply gives you an advantage in disguise and deception with the three high safety. Still playing the same coverages you always do, but you roll into the coverages differently from the three high safeties. And oftentimes, those are unfamiliar looks to quarterbacks. They didn't see them in high school. There aren't natural cover two and single high and two deep beaters like there are naturally that you get coming out of high school. So you have to learn those. And I think Sark did a really good job the last couple of years in the Big 12 of finding the antidote for the three high. Now, his antidote for the three high was simply force it to abandon its disguise, force it to abandon its deception. And the way he would do that is he would get to more extreme personnel groupings, extreme formations. You'd see a lot of 3-by-1 sets, a lot of unbalanced sets, quads. You'd see empty formation quite a bit when he'd play these three high teams. You'd also see him go to more extreme personnel groupings, 6-0 line package, actually, which Texas doesn't use anymore for some reason. Had a lot of success last year versus the three high defenses. But Texas obviously isn't running it this year. Your 21 personnel, your pony package has success. The reason is because, well, those are extreme personnel groupings in the sense that they are run heavy. So you can get the three high to abandon some of its disguise, guys wanting to get closer to their run fits. So they're not out of position when it comes to the run game, especially when we talk about another extra offensive lineman you add into the mix. Sark decides to go with 12 personnel more so to present that heavy look to get them out of their disguise. Also, the three high for some reasons, and I think Sark knows more than anybody, he abandons a lot of his conceptual signatures, or at least they decrease when he's going up against these three high teams. Not as many compressed condensed sets, very few actually compressed condensed sets in that game versus Arkansas. You get lower rates or pre-snap motion usually from Sark when he faces these three high teams. You also, I think for Sark, ultimately, the deep ball, most of the time we've seen the deep ball rates decrease against these three high, naturally because they're presenting you with deep safeties. So it naturally deters the quarterback in his pre-snap read, but also I think it deters Sark from wanting to dial up some of those deep shots too. So it influences, I should say, Sark's play calling and his feel of the game. And ultimately, the numbers don't lie. All the metrics say, all the statistical measures you want to look at, they all are adversely affected when Sark plays a three high team. Now, last year, late in the season, you were facing, your TCU and K-State and teams like Oklahoma State uses some of it too, of course, down the stretch. And I thought Texas did pretty well versus those teams. Even Iowa State find the antidote. Now, if you can run the football, none of this matters versus the three high. But Texas couldn't run the football consistently. I thought they actually ran it well at times when they needed to. They ran it well, but they just can't. That's not really what their DNA is this season. And ultimately, that's another way to punish the three high looks. So for Texas, it gave them issues because Quinn was off. And as I said, it counters the Sark offense really well. That disguise pre-snap, Sark describes his offense as an RPO-based passing game. It's a West Coast RPO-based passing game. Well, the RPO numbers, it presents essentially they present a truth that tells a lie. Because you got three deep safety, but you don't know which ones are coming down deep into the box. You don't know which one of those guys in the box are dropping back. And oftentimes you can misread the count in the box when it comes to if you have that advantage. And that determines a lot of times what you're doing on an RPO for a quarterback in the pre-snap. So it does a lot to counter Sark's strategy. And I think, once again, it rears ugly head. My concern is that why wouldn't Sark be ready for it? Why you
so this is the question that I get. Everything you just said follows what we've been talking about, to your point, for 2+ years.
Yeah.
And how Sark last year we thought solved the three high to a level. Okay. You said he had created an antidote to it, was your term, right?
Yeah.
Where was that yesterday?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Or is it also dependent on the quarterback not reverting and being on the same page? I mean, what are the things there? I mean, it wasn't a loss. And no. I will say that the offense did move the football with some regularity, but just didn't score a lot of points. What are your thoughts there?
No, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know why they don't use the 6-0 line package. It worked really well versus those three high looks last season. Empty formation using, they used a little bit of empty, but the empty reloads, I think a couple of their big plays actually were empty reloads. Reload is when you start the running back out. You start out in empty formation, only the quarterback in the backfield. Reload means you put the running back into the backfield via motion. They had to make, matter of fact, that Trey Wisener 30-yard run, I believe, is an empty reload. They had some big plays out of that. Early on, they ran empty. Jahdae Barron got that 17-yard, I think, on the first drive out of empty. And Quinn has been great, actually, going into this game out of empty formation so far this season against Georgia, but nothing really worked versus Georgia. It's probably the one game where empty formation was not your friend. I think you threw a pick out of empty formation there, but extreme formations and personnel groupings usually work pretty well to force the three high to abandon their disguise. And once they abandon disguise, they're just running the same concepts, coverages, and fronts that you're used to seeing. So I don't know why Sark didn't have the pony package. Also is, I think, kind of a more extreme personnel grouping. It worked pretty well at times, but Sark did not want to be gratuitous, I should say, in his deployment and usage of the pony package, and he likes to sprinkle that in. So I think for him, his antidote was, I'm just going with 12 personnel here instead of having more diversity and variety with his solutions to the problem. So I think if he had more variety and diversity with his solutions and in terms of how he wanted to solve the three high, I think they'd have been a lot better. But when your quarterback's off, do you want to take those types of chances? And I don't know, maybe Sark didn't want to. There are certain concepts he didn't want to explore because Quinn was just off. And if Quinn's off, then you're going to put your offense in harm's way. That's why I think maybe you got the conservative game plan of let's run the rock and let's try to stay ahead of the chains as much as we can. And I think it ended up winning them the game, but I worry down the stretch, Kentucky and A&M will both decide to change it up and go with the three high. You hadn't seen it in the SEC. I don't know why teams hadn't played in the SEC. Maybe they figured like me, Texas had already come up with, an antidote. They've come up with solutions for it. In this game, I think some teams are going to go back to exploring it. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. What you mentioned Quinn Ewers there. What's his participation in that? Is it because he wasn't on the couple of those checkdowns, one to Gunner, or a couple to Gunner Helm actually were off. Maybe one to Ryan Wingo was off a little bit. Does that kind of exacerbate the issue a little bit? Is that what you're saying, basically?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. That limits, how many different when you're troubleshooting this problem, right?
Yeah.
How many solutions you have available to you. Your quarterback's off. It's like, all right, well, I'm very limited in what I can do. But I thought Sark did a great job on that money drive in the second half. So I don't want to be too critical of Sark because I think Sark did a good job of that, especially when your quarterback is having an off game. That was a great play calling drive for Sark. I thought he understood the assignment of Quinn being off. So you need to scheme open wide windows for him. And then you start off with that play action, that 20-yard deep curl completion to Jahdae Barron. It was a play action 6. So get the linebackers to flow up and then you just ask Isaiah Bond, you clear open a lot of space for him, ask him to go win in coverage out there, and it's a wide window throw for Quinn. I think you had, I believe you had 2 downfield routes. That's it. So it's progression. So it was like, hey, that guy's not open, check it down to Blue or check it down to Juan Davis. And I think that was Sark understanding. I don't need to complicate things for Quinn here. It needs to be simplified, and he simplified the game plan, even the touchdown pass, right? That was pretty simple. Well, both touchdowns.
Go right and throw the comeback.
Yeah, exactly. If he's not open, all right, throw it away or go try to run it. But it's a simple read for him. And I think because at one point, I think Quinn was seeing some ghosts. He had a tough time making tight window throws because I think when he had to process pressure, his feet would stop and then he would just be a little bit off. So he wasn't making the right decisions under pressure. And I think Sark even moving the pocket, that was Sark saying, all right, we're not going to allow pressure to even get to him. Let's move the pocket. So I just think Sark was making some really, in the last drive, obviously to seal it, I think that was more on the culture of the program more so than anything. You brought up how they just ran the ball to seal the game. But that money driver, they had to have a touchdown. I think that was Sark being in touch with not only the feel of the game, but also the struggles of his quarterback and still going out there and dialing up the right plays for him.
I agree with that. I would say the one play on that really was a nice play by Quinn, I thought was the third option really was Juan Davis.
Check down,
inside the red zone that gave Texas a first down inside the 5. That was Quinn going to what I thought was his third read there.
Looked like it.
It's what it looked like. He went check through 2 when I rewatched it. So that showed some improvement. I like how you said that Sark, when it got to the time to make it happen, kind of reduced it and said, okay, let's go do this. And it worked. It worked really well. All right, we're going to go over Jahdae Barron. You want to talk about him? You want to talk about Alfred Collins? You also want to talk about the NASCAR package, the dime, and what Texas is doing right now a little bit differently maybe than before. Before we do that, though, Rod, I want to mention Dr. Brett Robin, former University of Texas football player. He is now a doctor of orthopedics at the Austin Orthopedic Institute. He is sponsoring On Texas Football's Second Watch with Rod Babers. Dr. Robin, a former Longhorn running back, knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacements. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients throughout Central Texas now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic specialist, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000, and get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. I got to say this. If I ever thought a Texas football player would become a doctor, it was Brett Robin. He played the position. You know what I mean by that? He always played it that way.
Yep, yeah. I played with Brett Robin. First of all, I can tell you, great human being, number one, great teammate. Still love me some Brett Robin. It's been a couple of years since I've seen him and his lovely family, but Brett's a great guy, was an awesome teammate, and actually, I need to go see him. I got some orthopedic issues that I could need addressing as I approach my mid-40s here, so I probably need to reach out to Brett Robin too.
All right, that's good stuff. Again, Austin Orthopedic Institute. All right, hey, Rod, 3 things on defense you wanted to grab. Let's start with Jahdae Barron. You're a defensive back. Your love for Jahdae Barron is well known, and not just love, genuine respect, I think,
yes.
Because you see him a little bit like you see yourself in the way you approach football, I think. And that's that you tried to go a little bit deeper in film coverage.
Yep. No, he that's exactly me. But the reason I am also the respect, but I'm jealous because he is me. I really do. I truly believe that. I truly believe like he sees the game the way I do. We see the game in the same way, but he is fearless. When I played with I guess I call it a healthy amount of fear. He does not. That's why he jumps those routes and makes those plays, right? When I would second guess myself. That's what I love about you can tell the film study and the preparation. You can tell he knows. And this is the thing about think about those routes, right? That he's defending. 2 of those routes he was defending versus Arkansas, where they thought it was a PI. And you could argue that the second one might have been PI, that he got there a tad bit early. Okay, you can make that argument. You really could. I think the official on the broadcast said he would have kept the flag, which I have no problem with that at all. But he's running the routes for the receivers, guys. He's running the routes for them. That shows me his film study. The situation that he's in, he knows the situation, the down, the distance, and he's like, okay, I know exactly what this guy's gonna run. And that's why he's there so early. And usually that to me shows you that a guy who's dialed in and he knows what to expect in that particular football situation. So his situational awareness, you can tell it is backed up by his film study and his preparation. And that's why on the field, he looks like he's moving at a different speed than some of those wide receivers. And he's got 4 interceptions on the season, right? 2 of those interceptions, they came in the Georgia game, and they were the same type of interception. He was just in man coverage. Not man. Well, he's in man coverage on one of them. I think he was in zone on one, but still he is attached to a receiver, and he ends up making the play on balls that are either tipped or a ball that was a little off. But the other 2 interceptions, the one he got early on the season versus Colorado State, and the one he just got in the game versus Arkansas, guys, that's not even his guy. He is looking for work. He is adding himself to the coverage from the backside or as an off defender. Because in that play in Arkansas, they're throwing to, I believe, is a seam route to the number 2 receiver on the inside. And Jahdae's in zone coverage, but he's reading the quarterback in zone coverage. He sees out his periphery that his receiver runs basically a quick hitch. He's like, well, I can always rally back to the football in the quick hitch. I got to defend in zone coverage. You're always defending the deepest to the shallow. Deep, unless you got other rules, usually deepest to the shallow, especially when I think they were in cover 3 at the time. And Jalen Gilbo's carrying the number 2. Usually when you get a vertical, you try to carry that guy to help out your safety, so you don't just leave the safety on an island, leave the corner on an island. So he's carrying, doing what he's supposed to do, and everybody's rallying. They're going to rally up to the hitch route, and then Jahdae Barron, watching the quarterback, goes over the top of that number 2 receiver, and it's not even supposed to be there really. Now the guy, it was actually a decent throw, but it was in a tight window. They had like 3 drops in the game, but they're in tight windows, so it's not a guaranteed catch. They're not giving you time to be able to make the catch and secure it. You ain't got time to secure it with Texas. You better catch it initially. If you don't catch it initially, and you trying to see it, nope, it's already done. And they converged on him, and then Jahdae gets the pick. But I said he wasn't even the main defender on that play. And that's 2 interceptions now. And I tell you, NFL scouts gotta love it. That's football IQ, guys. That's football intelligence. Is he gonna get in trouble, or the coach gonna yell at him for not being there? No. But he was going above and beyond his duty, above and beyond his responsibility as a defensive back. And he does that a ton. It's just doing that extra added value of him adding himself to coverage when he's looking for work. And I think that's an NFL scouts, man. They're going to look at that, and they're going to be salivating over the football IQ of this dude.
I noticed that on my own rewatch too, where he came off the outside receiver and worked back in. That was a tremendous play. Then the very next series, he has a tackle for loss, ends up having a sack or forces on a big 3rd down play in the 4th quarter. His pressure forced incompletion by Taylor.
Yes, it's amazing. They're using him now. That's why I love the NASCAR pack. I know we're gonna talk about that too.
That's what's next. Now I know you've made your point about Jahdae. Let's go to NASCAR package, because that is what's next. Tell me what you saw on Saturday that is either slightly different or more pronounced, maybe with the NASCAR package. By the way, NASCAR, you wanted to talk specifically about the NASCAR dime package, where they have 6 DBs on the field at one time, not just 5. So there you go. I'll set it up for you there.
Thank you very much. The only other time I've seen NASCAR just talks about how many edge rushers are on the field. Texas puts more than 2. They get at least 3 edge rushers on the field. They call it a NASCAR package. They haven't got to the point where they put 4 of them on the field yet. But with the way Alfred Collins is playing and Vernon Bryant, you don't need to do that. But they'll put 3 edge rushers on the field. I have seen them have a NASCAR nickel, but that's besides the point. They are now starting to, I think, blitz a lot more DBs out of that NASCAR dime. I think we're starting to see that a lot more. I'll say this. I think that just based on the eye test, that Johnny Nansen and PK are starting to blitz a lot more DBs, period. Have you noticed that? At least this game.
Yeah, the Gilbo came last week against Florida on that.
Yeah, Tap Daddy coming more. right? Yep. Seeing that Jahdae Barron coming more. Seems like that's not a little new added wrinkle that they're starting to throw out some more DB pressures from that third level, which I like, by the way. And they're doing no running downs with Taft Daddy sometimes. Come down. He has basically a run blitz at times, which has worked out well. But getting back to the NASCAR dime, I mean, you had 6 sacks in that game. 3 of them came out of your NASCAR dime. If you get in 3rd and long versus Texas, you need to pray, because that is a lethal personnel package for the Texas defense. When they bump Barron Terrell inside and bring out Colin Simmons, and sometimes Anthony Hill is on the edge, sometimes he's not. But Jahdae Barron now being inside, there's no guarantee that he now isn't going to be added as a blitzer or added as somebody to the rush. That's new. We hadn't seen a lot of that early on in the season. So now they're starting to add some new elements. They're starting to get a little bit creative with the NASCAR dime, which I love. I think it's great. They actually, I believe on one play, they ended up bringing Malik Muhammad, if I'm not mistaken.
From the backside,
yeah. And I'm sure there's probably some rules to that based on the formation, and maybe it's an audible or check to it. But I just said they're number one. They're bringing more DBs, period, no matter if you're talking about the NASCAR dime or not. But in the NASCAR dime specifically, Jahdae Barron now being a blitzer, I think it now adds to the argument about his versatility. I think he's the most versatile defensive back in the country. He's a guy that now can come in and also show he's a blitzer. So he's got great anticipation and timing with the blitzes. So I think Johnny Nansen and Coach PK are doing a great job of being able to weaponize that package and the personnel within it.
Well, I was going to say, the fact that we're 10 games into the season and you're seeing them roll out new things, that means that they've still got some other things probably ready to go too, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that this defense has taken yet another step forward this year, even with the loss of Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. It's taken it. I mean, look, Texas could have used both those guys stopping the run on Saturday, right? Because Arkansas started eating up some yardage in the run game that maybe Sweat and Murphy could have stopped.
Agreed.
But the Texas defense as a whole is better than a year ago, whether that's the addition of Johnny Nansen or the, just having 4 years in the same system with PK. I don't know, but it looks like there's layers of the onion, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
And Texas keeps adding to them and looking really good while doing it. One of those guys that you mentioned in there that you also wanted to talk about was Alfred Collins, Rod. A lot of people will remember and should remember the forced fumble in the fourth quarter. That kind of stemmed the tide of any thought of Arkansas coming back at that point. What are you seeing from Alfred Collins? My personal opinion, and I want to interject this before I get to you. The difference between Alfred Collins now and a year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago is not the wow plays. He could always make the wow plays. It's the consistency. He would make a wow play in a bowl game against Colorado, and then we didn't see him for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the consistency. And sometimes this is the Dwayne Akina's old favorite. Him and Will Muschamp used to say this all the time. It's not instant. It's not add water, instant player. Sometimes it takes time for them to develop. And that's my feeling on Alfred Collins as a whole. What are you seeing from him that you like as well? Is it much of the same thing, or is it something a little bit more?
No, I love that, Bobby. I love that quote too from Coach Akina and for Coach Will Muschamp, because I think might be the story of the defense right now, right? It takes time to develop. Look at Jahdae Barron. Look at Barron Terrell. Look at Alfred Collins. I mean, look at your best players on that defense. Seem like they took some time to get there, but now are playing some of the best football in the country. But getting back to Alfred Collins, he's just to your point, he's kept the game-wrecking ability, the flash plays where he flashes brilliance. But you're right, now there is a kind of a workman-like consistency more to his game. But it is those game-wrecking plays that NFL scouts are going to start, in my opinion, to improve his draft stock and start to think about him as an early, second day guy potentially. I say this all the time. What's the best D lineman in the NFL? It's Chris Jones, Robert Chris Jones. Chris Jones, you can't even describe him as just an interior D lineman, because now they got him playing multiple shapes. They got him playing on the outside. There's certain situations they put him on the outside. and sometimes they put him on the inside. So he's a multiple shade, multiple gap defender on the D-line. That's what Alfred Collins should have been when he first got to Texas. He should have always been that guy. Now he is being utilized in that way as a guy that can play multiple shades up front and be a game wrecker from any of those shades. And the sack we got, we beat a double team. I mean, guys that beat double teams, they got a name for them. They call them war daddies. Now he got to do it consistently. You got to do it every game where they come to double team and you're still wrecking shop. That's what Chris Jones does. That's what the greats do. If you're one of those, but he's gonna start getting some double teams, and we start seeing him still wrecking shop, beating double teams consistently, making those game-breaking plays. That's what we start. That's what Devondre Sweat was doing. That's what right. That's what Byron Murphy was doing. We had two war daddies in the middle of that defensive line. I played with two of them, Casey Hampton and Sean Rogers. Can he be that? He's definitely got the raw materials. I mean, people say I'm crazy for making a Chris Jones comparison. I'm not saying he's going to be Chris Jones. That is what his hope would be. My hope was that I was going to be Deion. I didn't reach that. All right. But the same frame, though. I mean, Chris Jones is like 6'6", 315. He's probably bigger now. But, that's kind of what they say he is. I believe Alfred Collins was 6'5", 320. And long and rangy, so you can move them around that defensive front. My point is that's what NFL scouts, that's their ideal D lineman, and Alfred Collins is a starter kit for it.
Also, both of those guys, pretty good high school basketball players, by the way.
Ooh, boom! There you go.
Yeah. So, I get what you're saying, and I think the thing with Alfred Collins that really held him back is he didn't have, because he played basketball, he didn't really have that muscle to stay inside, even though his frame said that he eventually needed to play inside as well as outside. Yeah. And so he was going to be behind a Devondre Sweat and a Byron Murphy who could definitely play inside, right? Yeah. And so it just took it. Sometimes it takes time. It just does. And so I'm glad his time is here because he's making the most of it too. That's another thing. I mean, for another metaphor, I guess, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You know what I mean? He's drinking right now. And making other teams pay for it. So good on Alfred Collins for sure. Thanks again to our sponsor, Dr. Brett Robin at Austin Orthopedic Institute for sponsoring On Texas Football. Dr. Robin, a former Longhorn running back, number 25, knows what it takes to stay in the game. And he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach. But also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacement. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now anywhere in Central Texas. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic specialist, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000, and get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. For Rod Babers, I'm Bobby Burton. Special thanks to our producer, Matt Hutchison, as well as our special sponsor, Dr. Brett Robin of Austin Orthopedic Institute. Until next time, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.